Hey guys, DorkNinjaAndrew here with,
Ninja Misty.
and we are going to be doing something a little bit different today on our channel. We're going to be doing a uh, hot seat session, and I'm going to be asking Misty some questions. So let's grab a seat.
And what kind of questions are you going to be asking me?
Well, I've been watching a lot of other guides and videos related to some other games that are coming out soon. Mainly Final Fantasy: A Realm Reborn and The Elder Scrolls Online, and I see a lot of, I don't know, misconceptions about console gaming and console gamers and sort of stuff like that. So I was figuring that we could do a little session on maybe why we like console gaming and maybe why we like those games and, you know,
Or what we think about them?
and what we think about them. So, yeah, so I'm going to just basically start it off with why do you like consoles, Misty? What are some of the reasons that you like playing on a console?
Well, I guess, we've talked about this. I've always played games on the console from way, 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 way back when. And the reason, to me, it always made logical sense. This is the thing that plays video games.
Yes.
Um, Whereas PC games, and the only real game that I've ever played on the PC with any length of time was The Sims.
Doom?
So
No.
nice. So I don't have a real springboard to speak to something like World of Warcraft or um, Final Fantasy. Being on the computer,
For sure.
but for
Like the
me,
other PC MMOs and a lot of the more popular PC stuff that's out there, I guess. You know?
sure, and
Yeah.
that's fine if that's your preferred method of playing. For me, it's not, because I like things that are, that seem to have a purpose. It's like the controller to me is is so easy. And when you get into, and I know you'll go into it in more depth, having to use the keyboard, having to use the mouse, it's a lot more to me that takes you out of that mindset of being in the game. To me, it takes me out of the game if I'm having to do all of these external things
Yeah.
on a PC.
I can
Whereas the
I can agree with
controller,
that. Yeah.
well, the controller, and because of the size of the controller, and you're holding in it's more like an extension of you.
Yeah.
Um, it's not a distraction, and especially, and I know PC gamers would say that they've played it for so long that it's not something that they think about anymore. But
They like to argue that they have that PC like the mouse controller is more accurate and that maybe you
sure,
can do more with the keyboard controller, and like I'm on the same side of the fence with you where it's like playing video games with a mouse and keyboard is not exactly my idea of, like, I don't know.
immersion in the game.
Yeah, or interactiveness, or it just doesn't feel good, you know? So,
No,
like, if I'm, like, supposed to be some beast dude swinging a sword and I'm just clicking my mouse, click, clickety, click, click, it doesn't feel as
sure,
good as, like, a game where I have pressure sensitive triggers that have, you know what I mean? They're spring loaded so that as I'm swinging with my weapons, like something like Skyrim or Elder Scrolls, like we're going to be talking about, like it actually feels like you have this tactile sensation of controlling, the actual movements of your character rather than just some sort of clicking interface with a keyboard and mouse. So I'm definitely with you there. I wish that and that's not to say like I could play with my controller on a PC, but it just seems like so much more trouble to go through than to just grab a console, plug in the game, have the controller, it's all working, and I don't have to think about any of it.
for sure.
You know, some of the other, I wrote down a few of the other reasons, and I know that there'll be a few here that you'll agree with. And, like, if you think of any more while I'm listing them off, like, you know. But, like, another reason I like consoles is exclusive games. There are definitely some games that you can get I know that are probably PC only, and I guess there are certain communities out there that believe that that's the best thing, or just like there's communities that think that the exclusives on Xbox or, you know, all that and all that stuff. And it's like, you know, there are exclusive games that I can get on this console that I like. So, and on a lot of the other systems out there, they're not the kind of games that I like playing, or not the style of game that I'm really looking to play, or the way I'm looking to play it, you know?
Sure.
Kingdom Hearts 3. Oh my god.
There you go.
And then, like, I've also been with PlayStation since PlayStation 2. I wasn't heavy into the PlayStation 1 because at that time I was playing Nintendo 64. Woot! So a lot of my PlayStation 1 gaming came afterwards, going backwards. But
Some of us were with PlayStation right from the start.
hey, woot! But like I've been on PlayStation Plus now since it started, and
Same.
I think that's definitely another bonus when it comes to at least looking forwards to things like PlayStation 4, which is another thing we're going to be talking about a little bit in a second. And I think that already being part of that community and having that, like, it's like I have my profile and my status that'll get shifted over to the new generation of consoles. That's a draw, definitely, towards sticking with consoles going into the future, on top of everything else. And then some of the other things that Misty and I talk about quite a bit are just like from a cost and maintenance perspective of trying to upkeep a top tier gaming PC versus just having a console that's just gonna do its thing, play the games, and you're gonna be able to have fun, play with your friends. You know, it's when you have a problem with a console, you're dealing with the customer service for that console, and you're dealing with the customer service from the makers of the video game. So there's only a few limited channels that you have to deal with. If you have issues with your computer, there are so many different channels that you're gonna have to be keeping track of to make sure that, you know, you're on top of whatever issue that it could possibly be. That it's like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Even though we've had issues on the PlayStation before, like the outage, which, you know what I mean, forced us to go and find other things to do with ourselves for quite some time. But
You could still play, you just couldn't play online.
exactly. I did have some fun actually during that time playing single player games that I hadn't seen in a while, you know. But even though we have outages like that, it's like the fact that it's somebody else's problem. Somebody else is working to fix it, and when it gets fixed, it'll be fixed for everybody, and we'll be able to play again. And I don't have to do anything. I like that. You know what I mean?
For sure.
You know? So, the next little part that we were going to talk about was why we like PlayStation 4 looking forward versus the Xbox 360, or sorry, Xbox One. Booyah. I'm so dope with the names. But basically, like, and this isn't like I don't have some sort of like giant hate on for Xbox. Like, I sort of have always known what their thing was and what they were doing. My personal position is that I didn't think that the gaming community needed another console when they decided to bring out Xbox to begin with. But that's just my position. You know, I think that had the market stuck more together, like, sure, we would have been paying, like, it would have been like we wouldn't have had as much choice over how much we were paying for the console. But I think that if all of the money had been pooled together more over the past few years of gaming, you know what I mean, with this split between PlayStation and Xbox, if there was just one conglomerate console with all of the games on it, I think that would have been like if all of the money had been going in one direction, I think that would have been better overall. But that's just me. It's just me. You know, I've always just seen them as like they split the market up or whatever. But like looking forward, that's a whole bunch of stuff in the past. Looking forward, it's just like for myself, reasons that I won't be getting the Xbox is just because like I've never been a fan of their exclusives. And their added features of the Connect 2 and the Internet TV or whatever it is, it's like those aren't things that I'm looking for in a gaming console. So like I know that aside from their like mainline exclusives, there's going to be a bunch of cool stuff that will definitely come out on that system, probably for the Kinect as well, and it looks cool. I'm not going to deny that. You know, I would be something that I would be interested in, but I have a feeling that most of those really cool looking exclusives and stuff aren't really going to offer the kind of gaming experience that I want, insofar as being co-op or being stuff that I can play with Misty. So it doesn't seem like something that would be worth spending money on, considering I'm going to already be getting another console that's got better hardware and is going to be playing basically the same games anyways, plus it's going to have all the console exclusives that I want to play. So that's just getting that, you know what I mean? It's not from a pure perspective of fanboyism. It's just, you know what I mean? I don't see the sense in putting that much money into something that I'll probably never play. So just putting that out there for anybody that's like, why don't you get an Xbox One? Well, that's why. So moving right along, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that we just got through, which is the Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn beta. Now, there's a non-disclosure agreement on Phase 3, so we weren't allowed to talk about it until Phase 4 came out, or whatever it is. But basically, what are your impressions of Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn, Misty?
Well,
Overwhelmingly positive.
well, no, I think the first thing, I'll give you the good. I think it looks great. I think that it's going to give you the feel
of a
playing a Final Fantasy game. I think that you're going to be able to create some really beautiful characters, epic characters. I think that the level of customization is nice.
Yeah.
I think that it's, and this is just speaking about it on the PlayStation. Playing it during the beta for me got old really quickly with the amount of menus I felt like I had to slog through.
Yeah.
I didn't feel the combat is not a satisfying feel to me, just because of the nature of it. Um, it just felt really redundant really quickly.
Yeah.
I think that there are going to be definitely some cool points to it. It's definitely something that I'm going to play, but I can't even see myself investing like the level of time that I invested in DCUO.
Yeah.
Because in DC, I felt like I was fighting my own battles. You know, the combat feels too easy to me in A Realm Reborn.
Yeah.
At least from what I'm used to in console games.
Yeah.
So
As well, like just looking at how it just thinking about how it can possibly expand from that point. It's like, you know, that you're going to be fighting against like larger monsters later in the game, and you're obviously going to have to do some tactics to get around them and stuff like that. So, like,
but I know, and you know, we've played enough together, just regular Final Fantasy titles. You know what you're getting with the combat, so that's not a surprise to you.
Yeah.
But even that felt more satisfying than what we were doing in A Realm Reborn. It just, I don't know. It feels too easy to me.
Yeah. And it felt like it was a lot of like just leading you around by the hand, doing very basic Final Fantasy stuff that you've had to do it in every single other Final Fantasy game. And I get that it's like part of the, you know, the whole franchise and aspect tutorial, of it. Yeah.
What you're going to expect.
But it just feels like
it feels like a PC game that wasn't fully realized for a console.
That's okay. That was going to bring me to my next point, which is that it's like what you were saying at the beginning with it feeling very heavy on the menus. Like, something that Misty and I had both been talking about while playing the game is that, and this is in the beta, and they did say that the further editions of the beta and the actual game, you'd be able to customize stuff more, but just from playing it, it felt like it was just all menus, whether it was your HUD or the help menus, or just trying to use the chat functions with the text chat. So many buttons just to get through the menus, and then so much of it just clogging your screen all at once, and feeling like the controller wasn't necessarily designed for this function, because it felt like I should be looking at my computer screen and scrolling over all of the stuff with a mouse and clicking on menus to collapse them, and not having to do they're making you essentially double click with a controller at certain instances, which is like, it's redundant. You don't need to double click with a controller, but you're just adding that extra button in because you don't want to take it out of the code or whatever, so you're just making us press the button twice somehow. You know, which is, it feels, as Misty says, it feels like a PC game that was ported over the console, and then the UI and the controlling has been like, I've watched the videos, I've seen the producer and developer Yoshi P using the controller and trying to test it, and like using it for his test plays and stuff like that, and he likes it. And for me, the issue is not like how well the controller works. The issue is like how much your screen is clogged with just other menus that are just these giant tile computer window style menus that are just all over the place, and it's like, it doesn't feel very natural playing it on the console, especially not being able to set up the controls to a better scheme. So I I have hesitations and about how long I'm gonna end up playing the game, even though it looks really fun. It looks like something that I could get into, like leveling some characters up and having some fun on. It's one of those things where it's like the feeling isn't there. When, especially when comparing it to something like The Elder Scrolls Online, which is going to be coming out in spring of next year, and I know we've both looked at a little bit of that. What are your first impressions of seeing stuff about The Elder Scrolls Online?
Well, you can definitely speak to this more than I have because you have watched more, but I've seen the trailer and I've seen some of the stuff that you've sent me. And the first thing, obviously, that would catch my attention there is that you're actually fighting by pressing the buttons. You're not having to, kind of pre-program your attacks, and so that's definitely a plus for me. I think visually, we both, you can clearly see that it's going to look amazing, as are most games that are coming out for the PS4.
Yes.
What I did take away from it is that it's not going to be you looking at your screen and trying to find the action in between, all of the menus.
Yes.
So I think that's...
And health bars. And status bars and...
Kind of like the Fox News of gaming, where there's so much going on the screen you can't see what the story is supposed to be.
Look at all these stats on what you're doing.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So, I think that, and like anything else, we're not going to know for sure until we get in there and actually start playing it. But to me, it looks like that they put more effort into making sure that on the console that you get that immersive experience and it doesn't feel like a game that was hastily thrown together from the PC over to the console.
Well, I think it's easier for them to do something like that because they're coming from a background of having already made games very similar to this, just solo or single player. And now they're using similar techniques. Just from looking at some of the other videos of like what their first person view looks like, that it looks very similar to what was done in Skyrim, so you're assuming that it's the similar technology behind what's making that happen in some way. So basically, like, it's exciting. I think also, like, and this is something that we've also talked about, is that, like, now, you like playing games like this in a third-person perspective. Sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes. And I like playing games like this, and we're talking about Elder Scrolls here, from a first-person perspective. And that's just, like, personal preference. And I've been watching a lot of videos online of people talking about how you're going to need to play in this perspective for this type of gameplay and this type of perspective for that type of gameplay. And I think that there's a lot of mixed messages that come out of that, just because you have people who are talking about the PC perspective of playing with a controller and mouse, with a keyboard and mouse. And then you have other people who are going to be playing this using a controller, and it really controls in a completely different way when you're talking about, like, playing an Elder Scrolls game with a keyboard and mouse or a controller. So it's like, to tell people that, oh, you have to do something in one specific way, when it's like, I think that people are going to obviously make their own judgments. I've just seen some really hilarious videos of, like, people saying, like, oh, I won't group with people if they're always in first-person view and whatever. And it's like, well, that's good for you. I guess that comes from playing WoW for too long or whatever, and that's the way that you see all these video games now. But looking at the Elder Scrolls first-person combat, I think considering that the game was designed around third person and just how good the first person looks, I think that both are going to be really viable. So I think that's exciting for both of us looking at that game. You know?
I agree.
And just one other funny thing is, like, okay, I see a lot of people making the argument, or trying to make the argument, there's some funny stuff that goes on with, like, PC gamers, I guess, talking smack about console gaming and whatever, where it's just like, they're like, oh man, I wish I was playing against those console gamers because my controls are so much more accurate, man. And it's like, well, okay, I could see, like, certain instances where, like, if you're sniping me with a bow or, like, doing something long range, that, you know, having that gaming PC that's, like, you know, pumping out the better graphics and you're sitting there with your keyboard and mouse, you definitely have some better accuracy and stuff like that. That's, I'm not saying, you know what I mean, anything against that, but I'm just, it just surprises me that it's like playing with a controller that automatically makes me then think, like, okay, well then I'm not going to try and play the long range game with you, I'm going to play the close range game with you. And just, like, in my imagination, at least for me, it's a lot easier to combo with a controller than with keyboard and mouse, especially close range. If I'm, like, coming up and chopping you with my axe and scorching you with magic and stuff. So it's just, I think, to just assume that having it accurate control somehow makes it blanket statement that you're better somehow, you know what I mean? It's like, it all depends on how you play the game, I guess, you know, at least from my experience of it, you know.
Definitely.
You know, and the other funny thing is coming across arguments where people say, like, oh, and this is, okay, Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn is going to have cross, what are they calling it? Cross-platform? Yeah, cross-platform play. So basically, when we play Final Fantasy A Realm Reborn, we're going to be playing with the people who are playing on PC. And that's why they're doing all the testing with the controller to make sure that it's going to work for the game. I'm still skeptical, but we'll see, you know, when that comes out. But the funny thing is seeing people make the argument that they're gonna whip all the console players' butts because their controls are so much more accurate in Final Fantasy. And I'm looking at that game and I'm like, man, it's like target lock-on. You click on the target, there's no more aiming. You don't have to, like, aim at anything ever. So how does having, I don't know, just cracks me up when I see that kind of stuff, though. But let's just go to the last few things here and wrap it up. Basically, there were a few questions that were asked in one of the videos that I was watching, and I'm not sure if I'll put them in the links. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll put the videos that are making some crazy claims out there into the links, and you guys can go and make your own decisions. But basically, some of the questions I've seen out there is like, you know, well, how would communications work on a console, man? You're going to be typing with your controller and it's going to be all, you know, super slow, and, you know, you're never going to be able to communicate anything and whatever. And it's like, okay, so for Final Fantasy Realm Reborn, it's going to be on PS3 first, so you might have some issues with communications because there isn't an in-game chat system other than the text chat, which isn't bad. That's how we played DC, because we didn't really talk to people other than each other when we were playing that anyways. But basically, when PS4 comes out, they've already sort of said that PlayStation 4 is going to have cross-game chat, which is sort of like chat outside of the game anyways. So basically, with both Elder Scrolls Online and Final Fantasy Realm Reborn. If you are upgrading to the PlayStation 4, you should still be able to chat with all your friends. So that's just a plus for the console gamers out there that, you know, we're not going to have to worry about that kind of stuff. Another question that was asked is why would the game developers bother to make MMOs or make games like these for the console, which is a slight against console gamers and stuff like that by these quote-unquote PlayStation or PC elitists, as they like to call themselves. And basically the reason that they make these MMOs for consoles is because we pay for our games. If you go and look at the statistics for like a breakdown of by platform who paid for the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, you'll see that consoles overwhelmingly paid the majority of money for that game. So the reason that they're bringing these games to the console is because they probably were actually bringing them to the console initially. They just weren't able to tell anybody about it until the consoles were actually released. But I would say that, like, this is their market, because when you look at the breakdown, the PC gaming proportion of it is actually pretty sad. So that's why they're bringing, like, it's like when I went and picked up my copy of Skyrim, there were 15 copies for PS3, 10 copies for Xbox 360, and 8 for PC. Just think about that. Xbox 360 and PS3 are both consoles. So it's worth it for these game companies to put out these games on both of those systems, because look at how much money that is for them. You know? And actually, we're the ones paying for these games. So if they made this game and they were like, oh, it's for PC only, we'd be kind of like, well, why did we just give you all of that money to make Skyrim, and then you're going to go and make a game that we can't play? You know what I mean? It wouldn't make as much sense. So I think to have that sort of, you know, sheltered elitist view, you're up in your high tower, man, and you're not seeing the plain stuff that's right in front of you, bro. So just throwing that out there. And also, like, it's questions like this, like, won't them making the game on the consoles take away from the time for the PC coding? I want you to think about that, okay? Think about the amount of time that it took to code the PC version of the game, and go and look it up, how much money the PC community put into the last version of the game, right? And then go and look at how much time it took them to code it over for the consoles, and how much money we put into it. Just go and do it. Just go and look at it. It'll answer your own question, you know? And finally, okay. So which game are you looking forward to most out of Final Fantasy Realm Reborn and Elder Scrolls Online?
Well, I really can't answer that question.
You don't have to be like, it doesn't have to be brutal. It's just like a, you know, or because the follow-up question is, what do you think will be fun about the other game that you want to play it for? Because, you know what I mean?
You answer your own question first. I don't have an answer for this question right now. Okay. I really don't. There's different things I'm looking forward to in both. But when you ask me what am I looking forward to, the first thing that pops in my head is Kingdom Hearts 3. Sorry.
Okay, I'll join you there.
I know that's further off. I think that I'll have more fun in the Elder Scrolls, honestly. Just from a combat perspective. I think that I'll have a lot of fun exploring in A Realm Reborn. just looking at the world and the different characters. I'm looking forward to that, to seeing what I can do, to seeing what the final product is, because we're still making assumptions, we're making leaps based on and a little more with Final Fantasy because we have played the beta, than what's coming with the Elder Scrolls. And I think that, you played Skyrim, you have an idea of the feel of what's coming.
Yeah.
I think that will be a different experience when it's put out into multiplayer. I think that it has the potential to be...
I'm looking forward to some Elder Scrolls multiplayer, playing in first-person view with my dual weapons, going around like a crazed madman, jumping all over the place, and just, yeah.
Yes, and you won't hear from Ninja Andrew for 6 months to a year.
Yes.
After that game comes out.
I'll
be doing the updates for DorkNinjaGaming.
And let us know in the comments, like, what type of content you would want to see from either of those games, because we'll have them and we'll be playing them. Not sure if we're going to do Let's Play content of those games, because we have other stuff planned, but if there is stuff that you would want to see, like maybe just like a character creation video, a intro video, just something to see, or, just let us know. I know that those videos are all out there now and whatever, but, like, if there's something that you're interested in, just let us know. And I guess that sort of wraps it up. I can say, like, thank you for joining us. Please like, comment, subscribe. Put your comments into the comment section. Let us know, like, what you think about console gaming, PlayStation 4, you know what I mean? What games are you guys looking at getting on those consoles or new platforms going into the future? And, what are you excited to play as we go forward,
Absolutely.
So, thanks for joining us.
We'll see you next time for more epic adventures with DorkNinjaGaming. Bye.
Woot.